Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, this is BestInSlot, and tonight we're going to talk about the needs and desires of our dinosaurs. How do you keep your dinosaur population happy in Jurassic World Evolution? How do you keep them healthy and comfortable? We're going to do this basically by looking at the IGN First video from last night. I've done a full sort of commentary video on that already. We're going to go a little bit more in depth tonight, looking specifically at dinosaur needs. Let's do a little smiley face. It's not really smiley, is it? So I've pulled out a few screenshots. We're going to go through and talk about some interesting stuff. It is a surprisingly in-depth system. That's going to reveal itself particularly towards the end of this video. But they really have gone... It's fairly intense. You'll see that in a little bit. But it seems that the dinosaur management portion of the game is definitely the main focus we're going to have. And management really is a key focus of the game in general. So, the first thing we saw, and the first thing we really learned, was we had a new Stegosaurian, the Wyangosaurus, I believe that's how it's pronounced, I could be butchering that entirely. And really we want to focus, as adorable as this little guy is, he really is one of my favourite dinosaurs in the game now, absolutely adorable. We're really going to focus on this left-hand side. Now we've seen this kind of status bar before with health, food, water, comfort. Let's just bring one of these up nice and big. So the food, so you can see this is your bar, that's how full your Wyangosaurus is at this point in time, and then this marker here is when your food drops that low, that's when it starts to become a problem. That's when your dinosaur is hungry, it's going to desperately need food. If you don't provide it, your dinosaur could fall sick and eventually die. And you can see that it's there for... Oh, you can't do that. And you can see that's there for a lot of these things here. Grassland and forest means the balance between the forest and the plains in your exhibits has to be perfect for your dinosaur, otherwise you know, they're not going to be happy with their environment. And it makes a lot of sense. We've heard in the past, for example, that the Tyrannosaurus Rex in this game, because of its natural ability to be an ambush sort of predator, requires quite a lot of forest. Some other carnivores may not require that. You'd think things like the Velociraptors in particular would really like a forest-filled exhibit in order to give them the ability to stalk and hunt their prey. But with a dinosaur like this, it likes a little bit of forest, it likes a little bit of grassland. It's quite an early level dinosaur, it's only 1.5 stars as you can see in the top left. It doesn't require much in the way of requirements. I just want to bring up another two here because this is going to be important later on as well. The population and social. Now these are things we haven't really seen before. These are two different stats. Population is the general population of the exhibit, and social is the actual social need of the dinosaur. So it's a bit weird that these are this way, as in population is lower than social. You'd, in my opinion, expect it to be the other way around. But this is basically right here the maximum social group of the dinosaur, and you can imagine that's probably 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 dinosaurs, something like that. And this to me suggests that they will actually herd together in numbers up to that right-hand limit right there. Population is the general crowdedness of your exhibit. You know, how many dinosaurs can live in this population without your Wyangosaurus getting a little bit annoyed about it? And you can see that's actually quite low. So if you have a jam-packed full exhibit, your Stegosaurian probably isn't going to enjoy that. Okay, moving on. So we're going to look at the same for the Ceratosaurus, and yeah, we'll just quickly go over that. You can see how with the Ceratosaurus, as opposed to the T-Rex, which really likes quite a lot of forest, the Ceratosaurus does not require a lot in terms of forest, but it does require this wide open grassland. We've seen the Ceratosaurus in this game is fairly brutal, you know, it's fairly lethal. So it requires that grassland to hunt down its prey. It's not an ambush predator, it's a run at your face kind of predator. It also shows us our first little, we've got a little virus there, the Campylobacter. And also I want to point out, and this is going to be important later as well, that this is a 5-star Ceratosaurus. Now Ceratosaurus is obviously not going to be a 5-star dinosaur by default. You would assume, you know, it's quite a basic dinosaur in some ways. It's not T-Rex, it's not Brachiosaurus, it's not one of these big dinosaurs in the franchise. As awesome as it is, you wouldn't think it'd be 5 stars by default, but we know that the 5 stars are affected by genes and stuff like that, so we're going to get into that in a little bit. But it's interesting on this one that you can see how the social is lower than the population. Now that makes more sense to me. You know, it's got its little social group, but maybe it could have a few more dinosaurs rounding out the population, not necessarily from the same species. It makes sense that the population requirement is a little bit higher. You can see this is actually the second Ceratosaurus. There are 2 in the group, and the social need has just about been met. Again, if we bring that up a little bit bigger, so you can see it's just about filled it. That's with 2 dinosaurs in. So it seems that having a pair of Ceratosaurs is actually good for your Ceratosaurus population, which is nice to see. We've had problems in past, in JPOG particularly, where lots of carnivores didn't really play well together. We've seen already that even T-Rex can play well together in this game. So that's going to be really cool to see. I'm going to bring up another one here. This is the first one. Oh, I think I got that wrong. Right, so you can see the social need now has gone up past the minimum bar. I believe this Ceratosaurus doesn't actually have a minimum social need, so ignore everything I said a second ago. You can see how the population goes up. You know what, I've got to think for this. You can see how the population's gone up and how the social has gone up as the second Ceratosaurus in. For some reason, the first Ceratosaurus 001, came in after Ceratosaurus 002, as you can see there, because as the number 1 comes in, that's when the population and social goes in. So your Ceratosauruses will live together in harmony, but if you wanted more of them, you could do that. If you only wanted one, it seems they do not have a social need. You know, you could have one Ceratosaurus roaming around perfectly happy. But that's not really what I want to focus on. I want to show you this, first of all, just because I love this Ceratosaurus skin. This is the Savannah skin. First time we've properly seen this. The general colour scheme of Isla Muerta, which is this island, does make it harder to spot, but I think this is going to look fantastic. And it's just a really cool look at the Ceratosaurus. I'm just going to bring this up quickly as well. So this is the size of the exhibits. There's been a lot of complaints on the video about the size of the exhibits. And you can see why, particularly in this one, considering there's a Triceratops there, and a Triceratops there, and a Stegosaurian there, you know, probably a Huangosaurus, and some Hadrosaurs in there. That is a cramped exhibit. But this one right here, even this one has been said it's too small. But with 2 Ceratosauruses in there, they seem to be perfectly happy. We'll see in a little minute, I think, or can we see it already? No, but you will see at some point, hopefully, that their comfort level is perfectly fine. Actually, I might have that on the next screen. Nope. But their comfort level is perfectly fine. You know, it seems that the dinosaurs don't have big space requirements. Generally speaking, they are happy being sort of crammed in a little bit like sardines. You can even see here with this Edmontosaurus on the middle exhibit, the one that is quite jammed together. There's a lot of dinosaurs in there in not that much space, but the comfort level for the Edmontosaurus, which you would assume would be governed at least a little bit by how crammed an exhibit is 100%. This is a happy Edmontosaurus. Now, it is lower in health because it's actually currently ill. You can see that by the red marker and stuff like that. And you can see at the top that you have 4 ill dinosaurs, the Edmontosaurus being one of them. But it is okay with that exhibit. Now, we are going to want big, nice, pretty exhibits in our parks. Of course we are, and that's a big part of it. But it is worth noting that every now and again, if you want to make a smaller exhibit, your dinosaurs aren't soft, basically. You know, you can knock them around a little bit, you can jam them in a little bit more, and you'll be okay. So we're going to move on to the Triceratops, which again I just want to point out the social, the population. This again is much more logical to me. It again appears to have quite a low social need. Its social need has been met, despite the fact this is the only Triceratops in this population. There's actually 2 Ceratosauruses and 1 Triceratops, but its population can go a little bit higher. You can see how the population is higher than the social. If I just bring that up a little bit bigger, dum dum dum, that's my CSI music. You can see the population is higher than the social. That's because of the 2 Ceratosauruses in the exhibit with the Triceratops. So it doesn't matter what those dinosaurs are, but it's the number of dinosaurs that are added in there before the dinosaur goes a little bit, it's a little bit crammed in here, boys. And we also get a nice little look at the grassland and forest requirements. It doesn't really need much of either. This is not a big exhibit, but that grassland bar is massively full. Maybe some of the more high-level dinosaurs, harder to obtain dinosaurs, will have tougher requirements to hit. We don't really know for sure. And honestly, guys, I don't really remember all the stuff I brought in, but there's a nice comparison between the 3 for you. The 3 dinosaurs that were shown in this video. We did get a little glimpse of the Draco Rex, but whoever was doing the IGN gameplay is a terrible person, so we didn't get a good look. And you can see that the food and water is the same for all of them. That doesn't change. You know, they all have that basic minimum requirement. You can see that Huangosaurus has a much bigger social thing than the much bigger social than the other 2. So Huangosaurus can be in much bigger herds, which makes sense as a smaller herbivore and not as a carnivore, of course. And you can see, however, it does have a smaller population cap. So it seems, this is weird to me. So you would assume from this that population and social go up at different rates. If the Huangosaurus, actually I've just had an alternate thought about this. Maybe the population cap isn't a hard cap. A social cap would seem to be a natural cap. You know, this is the maximum amount of dinosaurs or the minimum amount of dinosaurs. This dinosaur needs to be happy and to form a herd and a group. Okay, that would make sense. You know, 3, 4, 5, whatever dinosaurs that would be. Population should, however, be based upon the size of the exhibit the dinosaurs are in. Now, we haven't seen that actually come to fruition. We haven't had the ability to have 2 dinosaurs in 2 different size exhibits and compare those statistics, but that would make a lot of sense. So Huangosaurus was in quite a small exhibit, so maybe that population need would be more like up here if it was in a wider exhibit. So that's going to be interesting to balance those 2 out a little bit. And you can see here, I was mentioning before, it seems the herbivores do have less stringent requirements for their habitat. The grassland and forest for both of these is actually quite low, whereas the Ceratosaurus has a fairly high need on the grassland. Now, this exhibit they are in is a very grasslandy kind of exhibit, but because it's got Campylobacter, and I believe it had only just moved into the exhibit, that's why it's kind of showing that low level. It's an uncomfortable dinosaur, it needs a little bit of love, but that would go up shortly. Okay, so we're going to focus on something else, and this is some interesting little statistics about the Triceratops. Really shows how in-depth this system can be. So we've got some little stats here, nothing particularly relevant, nothing particularly exciting for a Triceratops. I can't imagine a Triceratops is going to kill many goats. I hope it does. From the bottom of my heart, I hope Triceratops is capable of killing a goat, but it seems unlikely. But this is really cool. We already know that in the game that the more, say, dinosaurs that your dinosaurs kill, the more popular they'll be in their park. It will actually increase their entertainment rating, which instead of being a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, whatever system, is on a sliding scale up to 100. So if your T-Rex has killed 20 other dinosaurs, it's going to be a big, bad 5-star, very entertaining dinosaur that's going to pull in the punters. So all that kind of stuff. You want your Triceratops to maybe take down a Ceratosaurus now and again. We can see the age bar here. Dinosaurs, of course, don't visibly age, but they do age eventually, and this bar is going to slide very slowly that way into the death zone, as it shall now be known. We get a little bit more information there. You can see it's at 41, so that kind of shows, of course, that it's just above 2 stars, which would be the 40 mark. It's nice that it's a slightly more granular setting, but we want to focus on this little bit here as well. I've not done one of those little symbols in ages. When did I do those last? Was it in mathematics? Maybe. I can't remember. Anyways, so the base rating is 26. The dinosaur, Triceratops, is a 26-star dinosaur. So it's a 1.5-star dinosaur, generally speaking. The authenticity is 12, so I'm assuming that is tied into the level of the genome, as in how close to 100% is the genome for the Triceratops. And that will give it a little bit of a boost. So if you had a 50% genome Triceratops, unmodified, assumedly it would spawn at base rating of 26. Maybe this was a 62% Triceratops, so it got an extra bonus 12 points. Then it gets a bonus 3 for modifications, so that means the dinosaur has been slightly genetically altered. Not much you'd think at 3. And then we get combat infamy, which is what I was talking about a second ago. That's your dinosaurs taking down other dinosaurs. That increases their rating. Now, if you had a dinosaur that was already a very high base rating and had loads of modifications, like a modified T-Rex or something, maybe your combat infamy isn't going to do much. But I do like the idea of having these long-lasting dinosaurs in your exhibits that over time, become more infamous and become like legends. And you could give them all different skins so you can recognize them, you can name your dinosaurs as we've seen before. That's pretty cool. And there's also a welfare penalty right there, which again, I don't think we've seen before, but that just means if your dinosaur is expressly unhappy, as this Triceratops will be in a minute because it'll be dead, they'll get a welfare penalty, that rating will go down. Which is cool. We didn't have that in J-Park. If you treat your dinosaurs badly, they complain, maybe they'd rampage and stuff like that, but it didn't really have an impact necessarily on the dinosaur's entertainment rating itself. This time instead, and sorry about my phone in the background, this time instead, if you do not treat your dinosaurs well, they will be less appealing to guests, you'll make less money. So it's really important to keep an eye on your dinosaurs. But this last one here for this little section is what I want to focus on, because this is incredibly detailed. Whilst we do have those little star ratings and that little sliding scale and stuff, it's really nice to see these right here, for example, the grassland and the forest, like official calculations. If you really wanted to plan out your exhibits and you could kind of get a handle in your head of how much room a certain exhibit would be, you could make an exhibit that is precisely 13,900 meters square and then plan out the grassland and forest in that divide it needs, and you'd have the perfect size exhibit for your Triceratops. Something like that. We get proper population group things here, so the social group of Triceratops will form. It can herd up to 5 dinosaurs. We think herding and stuff like that is in the game. We don't know for sure, but we're hoping it's in the game. And the ideal population, 1 to 15, so you could have a herd of 5 Triceratopses, you could have a bunch of Stegosaurians there, up to about 15 or so dinosaurs. But what's also really interesting is this right here: appetite, metabolism, consumption. I don't really know what to do with that, to be honest. The appetite, obviously, how hungry your dinosaur is, how willing it is to eat. Herbivores, in particular, you'd think would have a very high appetite, because herbivores in nature, and herbivores, assumably dinosaurs, graze pretty much constantly. They are always eating. Because you're eating grass and such, and you get such small numbers of nutrients, they have to feed pretty much constantly. You should have a very, very high appetite to keep that up. But metabolism and consumption are both really low. Now, consumption could be what is the dinosaur currently eat? You know, the dinosaur's just fed, it's got like 20 foods worth in its stomach, and then that's going to metabolize over time. So can we, in theory, feed our dinosaurs and then see its food kind of metabolize and digest over time? Kind of thinking like how Saurian does it, you know, where you fill up that second bar and then it drops over time as your dinosaur kind of lives off the nutrients of food already in its stomach. Maybe that's the same kind of idea, but we haven't seen that before, and it's really interesting and just like a nice little extra bit of detail. It also mentions, just a little side note, they will fight against each other and against predators using their large horns. They'll fight against each other. That's not something we've properly seen. I think there's a little bit leaked gameplay which might show it, but it's going to be really cool to see Triceratopses squaring up to each other and fighting for dominance of an exhibit. Okay, what's this? Oh, I just wanted to show the comparison between population and social group, and also the population, grassland and forest, so you can kind of get a feel of what those numbers are in relation to the sliding scale. Moving on. So one thing I wanted to address quickly, oh god, this video's gone on so much longer than I expected. I am just making this up on the spot. There were a lot of comments over the past week or so about how the Ceratosaurus has been killing everything and how the herbivores just kind of seem to die to it, and I want to prove exactly why. Now, this isn't official proof because we don't see these dinosaurs being made, but this is the genome library from the video. These are the stats that these dinosaurs have. And you can see in here the Triceratops has attack, defense. It's all gone up a little bit. We know this is not a heavily modified dinosaur. We know that because it had only a +4 rating in its genetic mixy uppy, and this is the same one because you can see that it's got the 42 rating just like the Triceratops from before, and you can see already that has knocked the viability down, but not much. It's still 94% plus 30, which I assume is because of the upgrade to the hatchery. For those wondering, you can upgrade your buildings to do things like pump out dinosaurs faster, or increase the viability of every dinosaur. That really lets you mess around with the genetic system without hampering your dinosaurs too much. So if you really wanted to go hard in on the genomes with the genetic modifying, you could do that and still have a very decent viability rate, because if you miss and you hit that 6% without this 30, you could lose your dinosaur and your $276,000. So that would suck. Anyways, so this is a slightly modified Triceratops, and this is also the Ceratosaurus. They go on to this. Now, we don't see this being made, but it does have the same pattern, the savanna pattern, and it seems likely that they didn't edit the dinosaur further in the video. It seems likely that this is the right dinosaur. So I'm just going to bring this up, and you want to look there that the Ceratosaurus has 50% more attack, a little bit more defense, more lifespan, not relevant, but another 12 resilience as well. Whilst the Ceratosaurus did win the fight pretty easily, it is actually 3 times the rating in terms of the dinosaur. And you can see that's reflected in the viability as well. Now, it does have things like the basic skin has been changed, which will increase all that as well. But the point is, the attack is much higher, the defense is much higher, the resilience is higher. There is no reason that the Ceratosaurus should not have destroyed the Triceratops in combat. And that will happen. You could, if you wanted, go and do these same edits to the Triceratops. Don't edit the Ceratosaurus, and you'd probably get the alternate result. But the person doing the video had a quest to win those 2 fights. They wanted the Ceratosaurus to win those 2 fights. It makes sense to build a strong dinosaur to do that. And that's really cool. I know people had a little problem with that, but that's kind of the idea, right? That you can modify these dinosaurs to fit into the game how you want. If you want a squad of badass herbivores, you can do just that. You could probably have a herbivore, a Triceratops, take down a T-Rex. We don't know for sure how that's going to work, just how far the genetic system will allow these dinosaurs to be pushed, but you could at least make it potentially an even fight. That's all I want to really talk about. I want to bring up one last thing. I know I've said that before. There were some complaints about the AI and stuff like that. I mentioned at the start of the video I did on this topic yesterday that this was an older build. This is not the most up-to-date version of the game. Now, we know that because of this screenshot right here. This is from the 25th anniversary Jurassic Park event. Some people went there and got to play Jurassic World Evolution, and this is a little bit of footage. I'm not sure they were allowed to take this footage because it's very unofficial looking, but whatever, we have the footage, it's out there on the internet. And I really wanted to bring up this right here. So this is a UI change that's been brought into the game, and you can see rather than just having, if we scroll all the way back, rather than just having this sort of like light blue and then it goes red if you're in danger, basically the bars always show the danger zones right there with very, very obvious red markers, and then the light blue marker drops down as your dinosaur loses its comfort, loses its food, loses its grassland, or whatever. It's a very noticeable system. That means this is definitely not the most up-to-date build. People are suggesting this is actually at least a couple months old, because we know the AI, we know the dinosaur battle system has been made better, has been worked on, is less clunky than what we saw in the video. So I know people were a little bit put off by that, but this is confirmation that what we saw is not the newest build. I imagine it's at least a couple months old, something like that, maybe just a month, but it showcased something we know is being developed. Now, whether that was a good idea is another topic. I think that was probably a mistake marketing-wise, but you know, I'm not a game dev. What do I know? The point is, don't panic, you know? Wait until the game, if you're hesitant at all about the AI and stuff, you can wait until the game is out. You can watch gameplay. Of course, I will be doing loads of gameplay right here on the channel, but the point is, it is not the final build. Things are subject to change. It's important to voice concerns, but it's important to not also go over the top. You know what I mean? You gotta find that nice balance. Right, lots of stuff there on dinosaur comfort. It is clearly something that's going to work. I mean, look, you can see over here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's like 7 or 8 different aspects we're going to have to juggle to keep our dinosaurs happy. That's quite a lot. That is much more intricate animal management than pretty much any other animal managing game that I've ever seen before, as far as I can remember. Even the Zoo Tycoons, which were obviously very in-depth in lots of ways, probably didn't have quite this many things to juggle. It's pretty cool, I think. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me. I actually meant this to be like a 5-minute video, but here we are 20 minutes later. But there was a lot to talk about here. This is really exciting stuff for me, you know, just seeing these dinosaurs needing this level of depth of care. And it's really cool that, okay, you have to manage the park and keep your guests safe and protect from storms and all this, but really it's the dinosaurs we care about. And if your dinosaurs aren't happy, your guests aren't happy, you don't make any money anyway. So dinosaur care is going to be at the forefront of your gameplay experience, which is cool. Okay, thanks for joining me. Please do hit that like button if you enjoyed this ramble-ass video. And yeah, it really does help me out, guys. Comment down below what you think about this, and I will see you lovely folks tomorrow for the species profile. Cheers, much love as always. Bye-bye. Quick little shout out at the end. This video and others like it would not be possible at all without the support of you guys watching me at home, and also everyone on this Patreon page right here who supported me in the last month. If you want to help out as well, you can do so at patreon.com/bestinslot. Every little really helps. Cheers.